is in Ashdod, Israel, where today roughly 200 protesters came here to the seashore to commemorate the death of nearly 20 activists. They were killed when the Israeli army attacked a 6-ship flotilla on its way to Gaza to deliver aid. When the activists arrived here on the shores, they were attacked by locals who were saying that standing in solidarity with Gaza was treason to Israel. It was here in Ashdod that the Israeli Navy diverted the Gaza Freedom Movement's 6-ship convoy on Monday. Termed the Freedom Flotilla, the ships were trying to deliver 10,000 tons of aid to the besieged Gaza Strip, including materials Israel bans from the entry, such as cement and most foods. The convoy is just the latest in 9 previous attempts, and the attack on Sunday night is the second attack on the movement's boats. Last year, a much smaller ship carrying several European parliamentarians, known peace activists and U.S. politician Cynthia McKinney was rammed by the Israeli Navy. This year, the army prepared well in advance. Starting last weekend, the Israeli Navy collaborated with the Air Force in training for the confrontation. Israeli Navy Commander Vice Admiral Eliezer Maron briefed the soldiers the day before the attack.
אנחנו חיילי צה"ל, פועלים על פי רוח צה"ל ופועלים על פי ערכי צה"ל, ואנחנו נפעל במקצועיות ובנחישות. אין לנו שום כוונה לפגוע באף אחד מהאנשים האלה. וביחד עם זאת יש לנו משימה מאוד מאוד ברורה לבצע. אנחנו נמנע מהם להיכנס לרצועה.
According to the IDF spokesperson, Maron also warned the soldiers that terrorists may be on board the ship. The Israeli Ministry of Defense, Ehud Barak, echoed terrorism as the motivator for the heavy military presence in his address to journalists Monday morning. The minister also said there is no humanitarian crisis nor a food shortage in Gaza. His charge of the ships being linked to terrorism is based on the Israeli Information and Terrorism Center's press release over the weekend. It says that one of the 5 members of the Free Gaza movement, the Turkish IHH, is a radical Islamic organization established in 1992. The press release alleged IHH's links to terrorism because of it having provided assistance to Bosnian Muslims during the Yugoslavian massacre. Where Muslims are engaged in armed conflict, some Islamic organizations provide military aid as part of a humanitarian package, it says. I spoke to Dr. Arafat Shukri of the Gaza Freedom Movement that organized the flotilla about the IHH.
Well, actually, this is an Israeli propaganda to justify the killing of these civilian unarmed people. But IHH is the biggest charity in Turkey, and they have branches in around 40-50 countries helping the poor and needy. And they have very strong connections with the political party, the ruling party in Turkey. So if Israel accuses them of a kind of terrorism or terrorist links, then they are accusing the political party for the same reason.
Israeli officials called the flotilla itself a political and publicity provocation and called the activists who attempted to prevent soldiers from boarding the ships terrorists. Throughout the day, Israeli press argued the attack was done in self-defense. According to the army's version of events, the ships were asked to turn back while in international waters, somewhere between 3 and 4 o'clock on Monday morning.
Mavi Marmara, you are approaching an area of hostilities, which is under a naval blockade. The Gaza area, coastal region, and Gaza harbor are closed to all maritime traffic.
According to the army, soldiers then descended from helicopters and boarded the ships, on one of which they were attacked. The only news report to come out from the ship itself before it was attacked and the army severed the ship's lines of communications, the footage talks about how soldiers descended on one ship and attacked activists, even those who were sleeping, before the fight the army showed ever broke out. The Israeli media, however, relied exclusively on army information, and its journalists were embedded with the Navy. The main Israeli radio station, Israeli Army Radio, spoke to soldiers and ministers about the attack.
לוחמי שייטת שהשתתפו בלחימה על סיפון המרמרה סיפרו כי כבר עם ירידת הלוחם הראשון לספינה ניסה ההמון לבצע בו לינץ'. כעת נבדק אם הפעילים פתחו באש מרובה בנוסף לירי אקדחים. על כלי השייט נמצאו סכינים רבים ועלות ברזל. בצה"ל אומרים כי ראש הפלג הצפוני של התנועה האסלאמית ראאד סלאח נמצא אפוא על המרמרה, וגורמי צבא אמרו לכתבנו טל אברהם כי סלאח התפרע במהלך לחימה. השר גלעד ארדן אומר כי לאור תקיפתם בידי המפגינים ייתכן שתגובת החיילים צריכה הייתה להיות קשה אף יותר. הוא דיבר בתוכניתנו 5 בערב עם ירון וילנסקי.
כשנהרגים אנשים כולנו כואבים ומצטערים, אבל אתה פשוט רואה אנשים שקמים להרוג את חיילי צה"ל, והתחושות הן קשות מאוד לראות את זה. לא צריך להיבהל כל פעם מכל ביקורת. כל מנהיג כזה יודע בליבו שהוא היה פועל לא כמו ישראל, הרבה יותר תוקפני.
השר בני בגין הוסיף כי יש להפיץ בעולם שמטרת ישראל בפעולה הייתה להגן על עצמה ולא לפגוע בחיי אדם.
There's a lot of confusing information coming out, so I was just wondering, according to you, how many people have been killed?
Well, actually, unfortunately, we don't have exact information about that because the Israeli army do not allow any contact with the prisoners there. We are trying through our solicitors to know exactly what's going on and how many have been killed or injured. But according to the Israeli television, those who have been killed around 20 and the injured ones about 80.
At one point, there was a report that soldiers started shooting before they even descended on the ships. I was wondering if you can confirm that.
Well, actually, this is what we received from the eyewitnesses. One of the last things that we received from them, that during in the helicopters they were shooting at people, and this is what it was in the press release.
The report said that the soldiers were shooting on sleeping activists. Is this true?
Well, actually, we do not know for sure what happened, but we are calling for a transparent investigation to know exactly what happened at that moment.
After the attack, the Israeli army said pistols were found on board the ship. In the release itself, however, the army admitted that the pistols were Israeli army pistols that activists confiscated from the soldiers who attacked the ship.
The world is going to be looking to Israel with a lot of questions about how Israeli society could seize this. What do you think is important for the world to know?
Well, I think it is important to be aware of the language that was used prior to this brutal massacre. The language was about an enemy, about preserving Israel's deterrence, about an attack on Israel's sovereignty, while the ships were sailing from international water into Palestinian water. So there was no case of sovereignty. That language actually translated into what we've seen.
The Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister is Danny Ayalon. He works under Avigdor Lieberman. According to him, it doesn't matter that the operation took place in international waters because Israel is above international law. In response to the fact that Israel couldn't declare international waters as its own closed military zone, he said, "These accusations have no basis in reality nor in legality. Our judgments and needs overbear any other. The decision to stop the flotilla was the right one."
I think that the appropriate thing is legal action against the people involved. We know that the commander of the Navy was personally involved. We know that the action took part outside of Israeli territorial water, not that it would make it any more legal if it was inside Israeli territorial water. These people are known, their names are public, and they should be held responsible.
In the meantime, protests have been taking place in every major Israeli and Palestinian city and university. Palestinian shop owners in the Old City of Jerusalem also went on strike in the early afternoon. Later in the day, Israeli army sources retracted that the attack left 16 casualties and said the number of killed was actually 9. It wouldn't let anyone confirm this. However, the damage done to Israel's image abroad will be harder to retract. Governments and organizations around the world have condemned the siege, last year's war, and this attack on civilians. Activists are therefore hoping this attention will not simply remain angry words and condemnations, but would actually help end the siege on Gaza.